Hello, this is Harry Paden. I am the host of Paden's Pulpit. This is Season 1, Episode 32. Today, October 6th, is the birthday of a civil rights icon, Queen Fannie Lou Hamer. Today is civil rights activist and icon Fannie Lou Hamer's birthday. Now some may be saying, I don't know that name. Fannie Lou Hamer. But those who are history buffs, particularly black history buffs, that name is integral. You can't not have a discussion about the civil rights era without speaking about Miss Fannie Lou Hamer. I call her Queen because she, in the fight that she gave for our rights, should be designated a queen. And I'm going to give you some of that history. So if you didn't know it, hopefully now you'll listen. It's only a few minutes. And it's civil rights activist, Queen Fannie Lou Hamer. She was a tough, in-your-face, tell it like it is black woman from the deep South, Mississippi. You know how we used to MISS? Well, this Mississippi wasn't a joke. Those who know history know Mississippi was a bed of hatred towards black people. On August the 22nd, 1964, for those not good with math, that's 58 years ago. Many of you, you're not even half that age, but 58 years ago, this poor Mississippi sharecropper was someone who worked in the field of generally a white person, black people who worked in the field of someone else, and they got a share of the crop that they worked. Another kind of slavery because the wages weren't apropos with the work that was done. But 58 years ago, on August 22nd, that's in 1964, she sat before the Democratic National Convention in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and described in graphic detail the racist efforts to keep blacks in Mississippi and other parts of the South from exercising their constitutional rights to vote. In part of her speech, Miss Hamer, a fiery orator, she declared, this is a quote, "I have been sick and tired most of my life. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." Those last words in Queen Hamer's honor inspired the title of my book, Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired. I give a full biography of her in my book. But she went on to say, nobody's free until everybody's free. If I fall 5 feet 4 inches forward in the fight to freedom. Said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Nobody's free until everybody's free. If I fall 5 feet 4 inches forward in the fight for freedom. Fannie Lou Hamer, she rose from very humble beginnings. She was back in the early days of sharecropping in the Mississippi Delta, and she became one of the most important, passionate, and powerful voices of the civil and voting rights movement, and a leader in the efforts for greater economic opportunities for African Americans. She was born October the 6th, 1917. Listen to this. She was the 20th child of sharecroppers Luella and James Townsend in a community located in Montgomery County near the Mississippi Delta. Now listen to this. Such an atrocity, please listen. In 1961, Miss Hamer received a hysterectomy. Miss Hamer received a hysterectomy by a white doctor without her consent while undergoing surgery to remove a uterine tumor. She was in there to get a tumor removed. The doctor, without her consent, the white doctor, gave her a hysterectomy. Can't get into the medical terms, but basically she would never be able to have children. She would be sterile. Such forced sterilization of black women as a way to reduce black population was so widespread, it was dubbed a Mississippi appendectomy. Medical terms get me. But it was so common that they called it a Mississippi in other words, you're getting your appendix taken out. You excuse me, I don't, medical terms sometimes throw me them words. But getting your appendix out is minor. But it was so common, this hysterectomy, that it was given, they do it so commonly that when a woman goes in for anything, they make them sterile. Oh, how much hatred is that? Unable to have children on their own, the Hamers, Miss Hamer and her husband, adopted 2 children. That summer, curiosity led her to attend a meeting held by civil rights activists, and you should know these names: James Foreman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which is commonly called SNCC, S-N-C-C, and James Bevel, another name you should know, of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, both civil rights groups, where she learned that African Americans had the right to vote. She didn't know it before. In the South, you don't know that. She was so incensed by the efforts in her area to deny blacks the right to vote. So it was at this point she decided she was going to change the course of her life. She became a SNCC organizer. In June 1964, after successfully completing a voter registration program in Charleston, South Carolina, Miss Hamer and several other black women were arrested for sitting in a whites-only bus station restaurant in Winona, Mississippi. At the Winona jailhouse, she and the other women were brutally beaten, leaving Miss Hamer with lifelong injuries from a blood clot in her eye and also kidney leg damage. In 1964, her national reputation, after just getting so involved, from the time she first became active, her national reputation soared as she co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which challenged the local Democratic Party in Mississippi, their efforts to block black participation. Hamer and other members went to the Democratic National Convention that year, arguing to be recognized as an official delegation. When Hamer spoke before the Credential Committee, these are all parts of the Democratic Party, calling for mandatory integrated state delegations, then President Lyndon Johnson held a televised press conference at the same time, so she would not get any television time. But her speech was so fiery with its, descriptions and just how she talked, and she talked so passionately about racial prejudice in the South. It was televised anyway, just later on in the day. In 1964, Ms. Hamer helped organize Freedom Summer, which brought hundreds of college students, black and white, to help with the African American voter registration in the segregated South. That's 1964. Again, if you know the history, you know how dangerous that was. In 1964, she announced her candidacy for the Mississippi House of Representatives, but was barred from the ballot. In other words, she wanted to become a representative Congress person, but she was denied. They didn't even give her a chance to run. A year later, she, Victoria Gray, and Annie Devine became the first black women to stand in the U.S. Congress when they unsuccessfully protested the Mississippi House election of 1964. She went to the House of Congress, the U.S. House of Congress, and she, said, look, they won't even let me run. That's how prejudiced they are. But she, she was a fighter. She also traveled extensively, giving powerful speeches on behalf of civil rights. Google Fannie Lou Hamer and listen to that woman speak. She was just she looked like somebody's mother who came to school. The expression they used is doubt. She wasn't well dressed, she wasn't fancy, but she was passionate. By 1968, Ms. Hamer's vision for racial parity in delegations had become a reality, and Hamer was a member of the Mississippi's first integrated delegation. She just got frustrated by the political process, so she turned to economics. Politics is, I understand that politics is, sometimes it just, as a strategy for racial equality. In 1968, she began a pig bank to provide free pigs for black farmers to breed, raise, and slaughter. A year later, she launched the Freedom Farm Cooperative, and she bought up land. That group bought up land that blacks could own and farm collectively. With the assistance of donors, including famed singer Harry Belafonte, she purchased 640 acres and launched a co-op store, a boutique, and sewing enterprise. She single-handedly, Ms. Hamer, ensured that 200 units of low-income housing were built. Many still exist in Ruleville, Mississippi today. The group that she founded lasted only until the mid-1970s, and at its heyday, it was among the largest employers in Sunflower County. In 1971, she helped begin the National Women's Political Conference. Extensive travel and fundraising took Hamer away from the day-to-day operations, as did her failing health. Throughout her life, she was in poor health. And the group hobbled along until it finally folded. Not long after, in 1977, Miss Hamer, Queen Hamer, died of breast cancer at the young age of 59. Throughout her life, Miss Hamer was plagued with several health issues, including a walking disability because of polio. When they messed up her eye, she had other health issues. But despite this, she was a champion for civil rights, especially voting rights, at a time when anyone fought for the voting rights of blacks, you could lose your life. Again, if you know your history, you know what I'm talking about. It's not easy. It's not easy. Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, Queen Fannie Lou Hamer, fought the good fight, and should always be a constant reminder that we, as a people, have overcome. And for more on Miss Hamer, you can look in my book. If nothing else, go to the bibliography, because I give other references of people who have written on Miss Hamer. She has also written several books. Today, October 6th, just say a prayer and look up to the sky and say, thank you, Miss Hamer, for the effort she made for us. We take it for granted. We forget our heroes as soon as they're no longer out there fighting for us. And that's a shame before everything that is in creation. Fannie Lou Hamer, an icon. And I'm proud to have included her as the first chapter in my book. The title of her famous speech, Sick and Tired. She said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Well, Miss Hamer, you no longer have to be so sick and tired because we have overcome Katanji, our Vice President, Kamala Harris, our former President, Barack Obama, and the list goes on. We have overcome thanks to the efforts of people such as Fannie Lou Hamer. Happy birthday in heaven, Queen Fannie Lou Hamer. May God bless the efforts that you did for us. To God be the glory. Miss Hamer, with all those illnesses, fought the good fight for us. What are you doing for yourself, your people, the children? What are you doing? Just a question. Just a question. To God be the glory.